Mage the Ascension. What is the most confusing game in the world of darkness? With all of these games, you can get what these games are supposed to be off the title. Vampire the Masquerade. The Masquerade is how Vampire Society operates. Werewolf the Apocalypse is the event that all the werewolves are preparing for. Changeling to Dreaming, it's where the changelings and other Fae live. Wraith the Oblivion, it's what's waiting for you that will cause your cessation of existence. Demon of Fallen, it's what differentiates you, the player demon, from the Earthbound demons. Mummy the Resurrection, take a wild guess. But with Mage the Ascension, Ascension is where we get hung up on. With every other game, we have a very clearly defined in-game or status quo that we're supposed to hold. But with Mage, Mage is a game where multiple fates, multiple ideologies, multiple philosophies all exist at the same time, and they're all correct. And how is that necessarily possible? Each and every one of these fates, philosophies, traditions, technocrats, all have this idea, this concept of ascension and, hypothetically, mass ascension. But what is that supposed to look like? Is there any clear definition or example as to what mass ascension is going to be? When you look at the, say, reference page that Ascension and the 10th Sphere can be categorized under, it looks like this. And that's a lot of different perspectives, where many of those books have multiple narrators that don't seem to be on the same page with what the other characters in the books are saying. So I feel like we need to sit down and actually define what mass ascension is supposed to be, and ascension for that matter. So how do each of these groups see ascension, and is there a universal definition that we can come to? Let's take a look. When it comes to the traditionalists, you think that these guys would be on the same page. That couldn't be further from the truth. The 9 traditions of Mage the Ascension aren't this unified nation like the Geru Nation, or this faction that scratches each other's backs like the Camarilla do. No, the 9 traditions are more friends out of circumstance. They can't survive without each other, so they just tolerate each other, knowing that if they don't stand together, they will be completely wiped out by both the Technocracy and the Nefandi. These guys are not necessarily friends, and they don't get along at all. Some of them are actively trying to stamp out and strangle out the other. So what is Ascension to them? It seems like we have 2 different schools of thought, where if I'm to break these guys down into categories, half of them seem to believe in unity, and half of them seem to believe in some sort of transcendence. Well, what do I mean by unity? The greatest example I can use is the Cult of Ecstasy, the Euthanatos, the Verbena, where all 3 of these groups seem to believe in something very similar, that the world has this heartbeat, this unity that you're supposed to become one with. With the Occult of Ecstasy, it is a literal heartbeat coming from the world and all of existence. The Euthanatos call it the Great Wheel. The Verbena have multiple interpretations of this, but all 3 of their ideas of what Ascension is supposed to be is not really leaving this world. You don't ascend to any sort of other plane of existence. You just make peace with where you are in the world, is their idea. The Euthanatos, you become someone who's moving the great wheel along, making sure nobody's living too long, nobody's dying too early. The Cult of Ecstasy, you just stay in this experience state forever. The Verbena, you become this apex being that can ensure that life will continue on the planet, and you become one with the world. The Akashics believe in something similar to this, but there's this aspect of nirvana with the Akashic Brotherhood, where the cycle that the Euthanatos believe in can possibly be escaped and you can rise out of it. The Dream Speakers believe in a similar idea, where this is a group that is very complicated. It makes up many cultures. The Dream Speakers are not really a unified group, and they don't even call themselves Dream Speakers. A lot of them have their own names for themselves and for each other. But these are people that are deeply, intimately familiar with the cosmology of Werewolf the Apocalypse, the way that they defined what the Umbra was going to be. And if you've read Umbra, the Velvet Shadow, you know that there are many, many planes of existence out there. The Dream Seekers can either become one with the world, or can seek to find say, eternal rest within one of these spirit planes. Same with the Virtual Adepts, where the Virtual Adepts are investigating the web where the internet was not invented, it was discovered, and they're trying to find a way to, say, have reality and this internet either become the same. You break down this gauntlet between the two, and you can exist in the world at the same time, kind of like, say, the plotline of Digimon, in all honesty. Or they're trying to escape to this digital world where they can just live forever without the fear of death, dying, and everything is just, well, reality is up to their imagination. But there are, say, we left out around 3 groups that believe that no, there's something to transcend too. Those 3 groups being the Celestial Chorus, the Order of Hermes, and the Society of Ether, formerly known as the Sons of Ether. The Celestial Chorus, of course, believe in God. That's what defines the group, after all. And they believe that everyone needs to be awakened to be ready to receive the One, what they refer to as God across all cultures, for when the One eventually does return. There's this rapture event that every one of them is prepared for. They know that they're probably not going to get into heaven today. Some of them have tried, but that hasn't happened. And that might be what the 10th sphere is, but no Celestial Chorister can really come back with any sort of evidence proving that that's what the 10th sphere is supposed to be. And they want to become one with the One. It's sort of similar to this unity idea, but the unity is with this, say, entity that's far greater in power and scale than any of us can imagine, and you want to become one with that being. The Society of Ether believes in a similar idea, where, going off the Michelson-Morley experiment, they believe in the ether, that there's this God particle where the existence of God can be quantified and measured by science, that are trying to learn how they can harness that particle, harness that energy, and then use that to ascend to greatness, where there would be no limitations for humanity, and there would be nothing preventing us from just going out and raising the dead without causing paradox. The Order of Hermes are the most transcendent out of all these groups, because they fully believe in this idea of the demiurge, that we're locked in this realm of existence that we're struggling to escape, that life is suffering by design of a creature that is taking God's place where God is absent, for whatever reason. The Order of Hermes believe that every one man can reach a divine state, which is where we used to be when time began. And the Order of Hermes' goal is that they're trying to have every man become as God, and unlock their true potential. All 3 of these groups seem to believe that Ascension is rising above your status as a human being, while every other member of the 9 traditions believe it's becoming one with the natural, observable, unified world. At least, this is their idea. The Technocracy have a much different idea. The Technocrats started off at a good place, but this went horribly wrong. They believe in one nation, one people, one identity. The NWO leads this idea, the Syndicate backs them up on it. And the other members of the Technocracy, the Iteration X and the Progenitors, they go along with the idea, and their technology is used to further the goals of the NWO and the Syndicate, while the Void Engineers are kind of just there. I mean, the Void Engineers do a lot of fun stuff, but they're never really around to check in on this Ascension deal. But the 2 big players in the Technocracy are the NWO and the Syndicate, that want a world where there are no borders, there's nothing differentiating people, there's nothing for humanity to worry about, as they will extinguish all that is supernatural and goes against what they want consensus to be. These are the people that are controlling the idea of consensus in Mage Ascension. Is this necessarily a good thing? Sure, if you're an average man that just wants to live an average life, keep his head down forever, and never be bothered by anything, and never believe in anything crazy, spiritual, or supernatural. But to every other supernatural out in the world, say everyone out there who's playing vampire and werewolf, this is your boogeyman who wants your complete erasure from the world, to live in a world where nobody knows your name or has any memory of you whatsoever, or even speaks about the creature that you're supposed to be. Is this necessarily a transcendent idea? I guess there's similar to how, look at the biblical sense, and the NWO does believe this, because Once upon a time, this was the Cabal of Pure Thought, a deeply Christian fundamentalist Puritan group that want to return humanity to the way it was, say, back in the time of the First City, where there was only one kingdom that was ruled by a central figurehead, aka the NWO in the scenario, that want a humanity that they have full control and dominance over. Is this really a transcendent idea? No. To everyone else out there, I hope you agree with this idea, that this isn't really Ascension by any means, but to the Technocracy, who are so deep in their dogma, this is what Ascension is supposed to look like. This is heaven to them. And this is what their perfect utopia is going to be when everyone else out there who's fighting against them knows this to be the dystopia that it very clearly is. The Nefandi believe in the exact opposite. They know that a mass ascension scenario is possible, but they want to prevent this. They want mass dissension. They want those that have awakened and learned magic to die, and those that are sleepers to stay sleepers forever. They want the world to never know what magic is while hoarding all the magic for themselves. As for how they awaken, it's by unlocking the true evil within themselves and rising to this idea of what evil is supposed to be. And their end goal is for whatever's giving them their dark powers, say it's devils and demons, say it's the worm, say it's Nyarlathotep and Azathoth out in outer space, to come down and have their way with humanity. There is no greater calling for the Nefandi. They just want destruction, and that eliminates any sort of idea of ascension. You don't have anything to feel because there's nothing to feel, nothing to rise to, nothing to be if the Nefandi have their way. Now, in the Mage the Ascension book, their Times of Judgment book, there is a canonical, hypothetical, not really set in stone 10th sphere of magic called Telos, which is morality, the ultimate knowledge between good and evil. That you, without any sort of lapse in your judgment, can identify what is good from what is evil. And thus, you can judge yourself and become what would be the ultimate moral good within your world. Or an ultimate neutral entity that is meant to stay outside of existence and observe it from a distance, while being able to identify if there's too much good or too much evil in the world. The Nefandi would not join with the idea of ultimate evil because they worship the evil, they don't really rise to the occasion, and the powers that they worship would smite them. Now, is this necessarily a transcendent idea? I suppose so, because while it's something that we want to know, we want to be good people, right? That's the usual politically correct idea, that this is something that we want to be. We want to be good to other people, we want to be treated the way we want to be treated. And ultimate knowledge between good and evil, knowing without a shadow for a doubt that, yes, this is the right path, this is the wrong path to go down, can be a transcendent idea of and of itself. I feel like that's a good idea to go towards. So this is all there really is to say about Ascension. It's a loosely defined term, but I hope that this video at least clarified to someone out there what Ascension is supposed to be, what the end goal of Mage the Ascension is supposed to look like. Thank you for watching.